Okay, so let's get started. Today's class is featuring the Nested Friends bundle. It is from the mini. This bundle is retiring. Now it's working a little bit different. The stamp set will be available. The dies will no longer be available after the close of the catalog, which is May 1st. So if you want the bundle, you can still get it. As of last night, it was still available. And I'm going to walk you through this beautiful bundle. I love, love, love the stamp set and the dies. So let's see. We have the beautiful images of that nice nest and the bird and the branch. We have some sentiments, which is what I always judge a stamp set on, is whether we have the art and the nice greetings. So this one has both, and it's got some nice, useful ones. Thank yous are always welcomed, as are birthday cards, and just a hello to thank a friend, best friends, make the good times better and the hard times easier. And then always thinking of you. There's one more little stamp that's a splatter or decal stamp there. What I am loving about this stamp set is it is red rubber. So I prefer red rubber as opposed to the photopolymer. I just feel like it's going to be lasting longer. It keeps its shape a little bit longer. Now, the dies are also must-haves. So we have, I'm going to open this up and share with you, if I can get it open, struggling here. Okay, so we have some outline dies. This large one is going to cut the nest. So if you do it right, it's going to cut the nest, outline, so you can stamp and outline cut the nest. We have one to outline cut the bird, and we have one to outline cut the branch. There are also two nest die cuts to build your nest, and I'm going to be walking you through both of these styles. So we have a background nest and then the detailed with all the twigs. We also have these sweet little leaf dies, and we have multiples of them. So there are two of the larger and two of the smaller. They create these sweet little leaves that we can add to the nest or to the branches in two different sizes. And with two dies, we can have 3 sets of leaves, 3 pairs of leaves per die. So that's 6. It saves on all of the die cutting. And then lastly, there's a trio of eggs, and we are going to be using those as well. So we're going to be using all of the dies on our projects today. And I think we're using almost all of the stamps in the stamp set today, except for the thank you. So, which is just a great, great tribute to this stamp set that we're using almost everything in it. Hello, Carol from Connecticut. Thank you for joining. We are also using the deckled rectangles, and they're nested sets, so we have lots of different sizes. Looks like there's at least 6 or 7 sizes. These are staples. They're must-haves in your crafty closet. All right, so welcome in. We are working with Nested Friends today. We are going to be creating some beautiful cards, and I'm going to share with you the first card. And so we have the best friends make the good times better and the hard times easier. And I'm using the stamps for the branch, the birdies, and the sentiment. I'm die cutting those sweet little leaves, and we will outline cut the birds. Hello, Jocelyn from Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining. I know it's going to be later, so I really appreciate you clicking by. Here in California, it's a decent hour. It's just 7:17. So I know for some of you, it's getting a little bit later in the evening. Now, I am using the Pretty Prince designer series paper or pattern paper. And you can see there's this beautiful print here with the Evening Evergreen, which is one of the outgoing in colors. And I've used it on the background. The card base itself is a soft succulent, which is retiring. It's still available. And I am also using, in addition to the Pretty Prints Evening Evergreen, I'm using another paper that is retiring. It's called Brushstroke. So, I don't know if you can see that. It's called Brushstroke 12 by 12 specialty paper. The cool thing about this is it is on sale for only $2.50. You're going to get 3 sheets. One is Blushing Bride, one is Night and Navy, and one is Soft Succulent. We are using the Soft Succulent. And if I bring that in really close, although it's a background, it's a matting layer. It has a beautiful shimmer to it. It has a soft brushstroke texture. You can't see a lot of it on this particular project, but it's beautiful paper. The price is right, as is the price on the Pretty Prints. The Pretty Prints is on sale for only $8.40 for the pack of, let's see, 12 sheets you'll get. So that is what I'm using on this project. And let's get started. Let's see if I can push you over so we're not, there we go, that's a little bit better. And let's get started. So for this project, we are going to start with a soft succulent card base, standard size. It's 5.5 by 8.5, and I scored it halfway through at 4 1/4. Let me take a breath and say, if you have any questions, feel free to post them. I'll try to address them as they pop up, or I always come back to them as well. All right, so my next layer is the Evening Evergreen, also retiring. And this one measures, let's see, I'm gonna measure it out for you because I'm not certain. 2.5 by 5 1/4. I'm taking 3 panels of that Evening Evergreen print from the Pretty Prints. These measure, let's see, 4 inches by 1.5. They are 3 altogether. Here is my layer of the brush stroke. Let's see, what was that? It's just called brushstroke specialty paper. Now you can see the brushstroke and you can see a little bit of the shine. So this layer measures 3 1/8 by, let me get that, 4 1/2. That's going to be a matting layer. And then I went ahead and I pre-die cut one of the deckled rectangles. This one measures 4 1/4 by 3. That's what we're going to be stamping on. Since we are stamping, we're going to need a little bit of basic white scrap. All right, so those are the materials we need. We'll start off with our stamping. I'll push this over. So on one, we are stamping right onto our rectangle, and then we're going to stamp a little bit on the scrap. And let's see, we are stamping the Best Friends sentiment, and I'm using the Memento Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to also add that you want to be checking your stamp to make sure that you haven't picked up ink around the border, because this little stamp set I found, I always go with the cuts that Stampin' Up! Has given us on the red rubber, and sometimes they have a little bit too much red rubber, and they will leave that little ghost ring if you're not careful. If you try and press down firmly, you might push some of that ink where you don't want it. So, and I'm happy with that one. There's my sentiment. Then I am going to stamp my branch. So this is all flat stamping. This is this is the quick and easy card. Let me say that. And let's see, I think I need a piece of scrap underneath. I might fall off my cardstock. So I am just going to lay that right underneath, and I'm stamping with a retiring color, soft suede. I don't know how you feel. I'm a friend of soft suede. I'm gonna be sad to see it go. I know we need to make room for the new, but soft suede is one of my go-to neutrals, and I'll just have to see how I manage without it, right? I'm going to stamp kind of low on my rectangle because I want to have space for my bird to stand underneath the sentiment. And I'm going to stamp all the way to the left, being careful. And I should have checked this before. Lucky for me, it worked out. I should have checked before I stamped down that I didn't have any ink around the edge there. But all looks well. All right, then let's see. I also need to stamp my little bird, and I've already mounted all of my stamps. I should mention that too. I have my collection of acrylic blocks. This one's a C. It's a good size for the little bird. And I'm going to be stamping 2 on scrap paper in tuxedo black. Pretty easy. And I'm going to set that ink pad aside. Hopefully I don't lose it. Now I'm going to be doing some coloring, and here's where I'm going to shout out to my watercolor pencils. They are retiring, mostly because they have some of the retiring colors. So the watercolor assortment 1 is actually on sale for only $11.20. I think it's regularly $16, so that's a good deal. And the assortment 2 is also retiring. It is not on sale. It is $12.50. And there are different colors in assortment 1 and assortment 2. I am pulling from both assortments, and hopefully I can remember so I can let you know which assortment I'm using. And I'm also using a blender pen. So for those of you that don't own all the Stampin' Blends, the watercolor pencils and the blender pen are great alternatives to owning all the Stampin' Blends. They're very economical and they do a beautiful job as well. All right, so let's get started with some coloring. I'm going to start off with the branch that I stamped my deckled rectangle on, and I'm using my Early Espresso. This is assortment 1, and I am just going to press lightly. I don't want it too dark. And on this one, I'm not going to be doing any blending. I'm pretty much just adding some Early Espresso to the branch. And I will be coloring the leaves as well, although some of them won't show too much. So very lightly, I'm not even going to blend it in. And I am going to bring in my old olive and lay just a little bit of green on the leaves. Some of them are going to be covered either by the birds or some of those sweet little die cut leaves. And we are going to be die cutting in just a second. I want to say too, this Nested Friends is a perfect die set for the mini. And I should share with you, anytime you have a catalog or you are online, when you see this little icon, that tells you that this set is compatible with the mini. So you want to be on the lookout for that. Sometimes you can use the mini, sometimes you can't. You don't want to run into a situation where you need the standard size machine when you don't have it. Okay, so I'm happy with the little branch that I colored. Now I'm going to color in my birdies. And I am coloring with Night of Navy, which is from assortment 2. And I'm just going to do the outer area of the bird with Night of Navy. So he's like a little blue bird. And I'm going lightly. Not too much pressure is needed. This time I'm going to bring in the blending pen. And the cool thing with the blender is that you don't have to be precise where you lay the color down, because you're going to be blending it in. And just a few scribbles of laying down color will produce beautiful results. So you don't have to be too detailed in your coloring. That's my style. I'm kind of quick and clean. So there's my blue. I'm using also Daffodil Delight from assortment 1. And again, I'm just going to lay down a little bit of color, not a lot, on the chest and inner body. Not even going to go all the way to the head. And then I'm going to press a little bit more firmly on the beak to give a little bit darker coloring. All right, now I'm going to bring in my blender. And when I first started with Stampin' Up, this was my go-to for coloring, the pencils and the blending pen. And they still work great. This blender has 2 tips. They're sold in a pack of 3. They have 2 tips. You can use them for all colors. You just want to make sure that you clean them off before you put them away. Now I'm going to blend in my color here. I'm going to start with my light color and blend in. Now I didn't put a lot of color up in his face area, but I'm going to bring in a little bit of the yellow, bringing it up. So he is going to have a little bit of color up there. Now you do not want to press too firmly or apply too much of the moisture. This is just basic white paper and it will pill if you apply too much moisture. So you want to be careful of that. And as I said, we're pretty much just pushing the color around where we want. Then I'm going to blend in my dark blue, and this gives you an overall coloring, nice smooth color. And I'll kind of go in little strokes blending in, as well as the wings and the head. And again on the second one. Sweet set for springtime. I have a little bird that builds his nest on our patio every season, and it drives the dogs bonkers, but I love that they come back. And it's in the morning when I'm having my coffee, it's so pleasant to sit out there and watch the birds coming in and out. All right, so I've colored my birds very softly with the little yellow chest. I'm going to add a little bit of gray towards the bottom half. Now the gray, I believe, is assortment 1, so you still have a little bit of color. And this is just kind of to blend in so that it transitions from the blue to the yellow nicely. So just a little bit of color here. Then I am going to set these aside. We're going to need those for the other projects. I'm going to wipe my tip clean on just a scrap. And I'm ready to cut. I've got a little bit of die cutting to do, so let me bring in my mini here. The sandwich is pretty easy. I am using cutting pad number 3, which seems to be the friendlier pad for cutting without too much struggle. I'm going to bring in the little outline for the bird, and let's see, I'm going to hold my breath, put my second cutting pad on top. I'm not going to apply any kind of tape to hold that in place, and just crank it through. I'm going to do 2 because we have best friends. There's one bird, and I'm going to do the second. There we go. Now I have, besides the projects I'm sharing with you tonight, I have a couple other samples to share with you with nested friends. Right through here. So there are my two birds. Now I'm going to cut my, let me get rid of this. I am going to take my little leaves. Remember, we have die cuts that are going to cut 3 pair of leaves, and I'm going to take both of the larger and I'm going to take one of the smaller. Let's see, I'm going to bring in my brushstroke specialty paper, and I am going to cut directly from the brush stroke. And notice how I'm putting the dies at the center, because this is going to be a matting layer and nobody's going to see that there is a gap in the paper there. We're going to get our leaves. We're going to have some pretty soft, succulent leaves. Let me put this aside. Oops. And so, as I said, no one is going to know that you have little holes in your paper. I'm going to put these here. Hopefully they don't wander off. So this is going to be covered anyway with our art layer. Put this aside, and sometimes we can get the leaves to jump out. I found not so much with the brushstroke paper. So let's see if I have my take your pick. I'm just going to push them out. And there we go, just to release them. This paper is just gorgeous, the coloring, and it's nice because it is a lightweight. It's not a heavy cardstock weight. So when you're adding lots of layers to your card, it's helpful that not every layer is the thick cardstock. And some of them need a little bit more coaxing to come out of the die. One of my tricks is to run the dies through the cutting machine with wax paper for helping to release the paper, and I also run it with the foil to help cut. So I usually do both. All right, so we've got our leaves. I think we're ready to assemble. So before I start losing those leaves, here's what I'm going to do. See, this is going to be matted right atop that soft, succulent brushstroke paper. Hello, Debbie. Thank you for joining in. We are working with Nested Friends. We're on our first card, and this is a simple card. I'll show you the finished project. There we go. We have some pair of bluebirds here. They're best friends. They're sitting on a tree branch, and we're getting ready to assemble the card now. So the little birds are going to be popped up with dimensionals. So let me grab a dimensional here. Don't forget, this brushstroke paper is on sale, only $2.50 for the 3 sheets. It's beautiful specialty paper. And one bird is going to go, let's see, I'm going to take care of the first little guy, and I just want him to clear the sentiment up here. So let's see, right like so. And then the friend is going to be right beside, a little bit higher maybe. All right, now we're going to add some of the sweet little leaves that we die cut. And the way I did that, I just added a little drop of glue here and there to secure. Hopefully my glue is operating today. There. Whoa, too much. Let's see if I can help that. Let me pick a little bit of that off and swing it over elsewhere. And I just took a little bit of a piece of the dimensional covering to pick up some of that extra glue. I'm going to push it around because these little leaves they're tiny. I'm going to use my little tweezers to pick up the leaves and push them down. Like so, so easy. The brushstroke paper has a little bit of shimmer to it. And then I've got one more down here. Let's see. there. And we're going to add some near the little birds. Trying to control what comes out of the glue bottle. I'm going to put one up at the top. All right, so let's keep going with the little leaves. And these little leaves, I don't know if you can see all the detailing on them. You can see the veins and the leaves. Just a sweet, sweet die set. And remember, this stamp set is going to carry over, the dies will not. So if you like it, I would grab the dies now. I would get the entire bundle now. You can still get your 10% savings. And then I'm going to do one more up at the top. And let's see, just up there. All right, so I'm happy with my little birdies. I am going to go ahead and mat it onto the brushstroke specialty paper. Just a little bit of liquid glue. All right, there we go. We're going to be doing some embellishing before we've completed the card. Let's build our background on our soft succulent cardstock. And I need my bone folder. This is standard card size. I scored it at 4 1/4. My evening evergreen layer. Both of these greens are on their way out. And I'm going to, it's 1/4 inch shorter than the card base. And the 3 panels, I did pop up with dimensionals. Let's see if I've got enough here. And I'm using the darker dimensionals. I love the black dimensionals. 1, you get both sizes in the pack. And 2, when you have a darker paper, it's nice to have the black as opposed to the white, so it's not so stark. There we go. And I use every last bit. So that's a great question, Carol. The last chance lists, both the main catalog and the mini catalog expire on the same day. The last day to order is May 1st, with just the caveat that everything is while supplies last. So I had a group of stampers last night. Oh, before I do that, let me tell you my thought process here. So let's see. I start off in the middle. I had my T-square. I'm going to go with just my little ruler here. If the center of the card base is 275 or 2 3/4, I'm going to look at the center point and come right in here. That's where I'm going to start my panel. I start on the center panel and then build out. So you could measure if you want, or just kind of eyeball it. So as I was saying, I had my stampers last night, and I'm always trying to relay the info that everything's while supplies last, particularly with inks and refills. Every year, I think those are the first things that are depleted. And so I know my stamper, one in particular, was kind of disappointed because everything she was looking for was sold out. And a lot of them were the colors. So refills, even inks. The cardstock mostly is still available. It's just hey, what happened here? After I said that, what happened? Why am I not centered here? Let's figure this out. What happened? Because you can see there's a huge gap there. So 275, oh, it is off a little bit. Let's see if I can fix that still. So I'm going to bring in my take your pick and see if I can lift it. Hopefully I didn't push down too hard. There. Sometimes talking at the same time is working. Well, enough said. That's just the way things go these days as I get older, so can't do two things at once. I'm going to move that over just a little bit to have a little bit more. There we go. I'm happier now. There's my card base. And then finally, I'm going to put my art, my center art, right in place. And let's see. I am low on my black dimensionals. Let me bring in white. And then a couple extra in the center for support. Now bear in mind, a lot of the things on the last chance list are discounted, so that's another good thing too. And there are still plenty of things available. Just some things selling out, some things not. Now I'm going to eyeball this kind of centered in place. And we're almost finished. I want to do my detail. I'm going to bring in my linen thread right through here, and I just take my nail and kind of straighten it out a little bit. I'm going to tie my bow right in here. Nice floppy bow. And I'm going to use my ribbon scissors, and I need a little glue dot to get it in position. And I think I'm going to put it right over by the left bird, right in there. And one last embellishment, I am using the In Color Opal rounds. I know for a fact these are sold out, but I still have a supply, so I'm going to be using mine. And I'm going to be adding maybe 3. And I'm going to go for the smaller ones here. So, and I kind of like to do mine like in a triangle. And right up in here, that one kind of popped in a weird spot. So there we go. There is my best friends. Make the good times better and the hard times easier. Isn't that a sweet card? So there is the first card in the Nested Friends card class, featuring the pretty prints in Soft Succulent and Evening Evergreen, and that brushstroke paper, which is just beautiful. Both of these papers are on discount right now. So there's card number 1. Hope you like that. So it's going to get a little bit more stepped up as we go. Not too complicated though. All the cards are pretty simple today. Let's just say that. All right, so let's keep on with card number 2. Thank you, Carol, so sweet. Card number 2 is featuring Calypso Coral, and I talked about the dies that are available in this bundle. We are building the nest with the little leaves in this card, and we're going to be doing some special things with the ribbon there. So I like the coloring on this. I'm still using the pretty prints. I'm using Petal Pink, and I'm using another paper. I'm using a vellum paper here. It's very cool. It's called Vellum Basics Specialty Paper, and I have pre-die cut with my go-to die, Stylish Shapes. So let me share with you what I've got here. Isn't it pretty, Debbie? I love the Calypso Coral. It just looks so springy and cheerful. And I'll share with you who I have in mind to send this card to. All right, so let's go. You can see I've got lots of things going on here. I'll walk you through everything I've got. Some of the things I've pre-stamped and pre-die cut just so that we're not here for too long because I know it's getting late. But I love that you're joining me at this late hour. Okay, so my card base, Calypso Coral, it's a standard card size, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I also have a piece of the Pretty Prints in the Calypso Coral print, and this measures 5 1/4 by, I believe it's 1 3/4. It's kind of like a basic layout, 1 3/4. I have a cut piece of, let's see, petal pink. I have embossed this with a folder, Into the Clouds it's called. This is on the retirement list. Right now it's on sale for $3.40. What a deal. It's got some nice texture in it and some clouds. So I think that's perfect for the little bird sitting in his nest. Then we also have that stylish shape vellum circle. This is the largest circle, and I'm using that leaf print, really pretty. And I have built the nest. I've cut the solid part in crumb cake, and then the detailed twigs in my favorite retiring color, soft suede. So we're going to be adding that. I have a little strip of old olive. It's about 1 inch and maybe 4 inches wide. We're going to be cutting that. And I pre-die cut quite a few of those little detailed leaves. Remember, you only have to do one pass because they gave us 4 of those dies to cut the little leaves. And I love that, where I'm not constantly cranking out more and more leaves. All right, so let's get started. We are going to start with building, and then we'll do some stamping. So I'm just going to take my card base, fold it over and burnish. My pattern paper is flat adhered. And you'll notice I don't use a lot of glue. Some crafters who struggle with the liquid glue, I think it's because you lay down too much, or sometimes we lay down too much. I'm going to have about 1/8 of an inch border to the left, top and bottom. There we go. I'm going to bring in my die cut petal pink. And this is the same die I used on the previous card, same size, deckled rectangles. And it's pretty much centered right in here. All right, so I'm not going to add my vellum yet. We are going to be adding that with dimensionals after we add the nest. So let's build the nest. I pre-cut the crumb cake and the soft suede. To attach, I'm just going to put a few little dots. And I'm just going for the wider areas of cardstock on these little twigs. You don't need a lot, again. We're going to lay it over and build the nest. How sweet is this? I love these little die cuts are so sweet. We're going to add some little leaves in old olive. And again, I'm just going to add my drops of glue. Going to kind of scatter them around. And then I'm going to, there is a right and a wrong side on the leaves. They have a beautiful detail on the veins. I think I mentioned that earlier. And I try to use my tweezers so that my fingers are out of the mix. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more leaves. I'm going in different directions here. Hello, Susan. Thank you for joining. No worries about being late, my friend. You can always catch the replay. All right, so let's see. We are crafting with Nested Friends. Nested Friends is a beautiful bundle that will be retiring. However, the stamp set will continue to be available. I believe it'll be an online exclusive. It is a $1 million stamp set. The dies, however, are not carrying over. So if you're someone who loves the bundle and the dies, you'll want to get it before May 1st. The sooner the better, because of course everything's while supplies last. All right, next, I am going to go ahead and add this little nest to the vellum circle. And I believe I added it just with liquid glue. And I'm adding this before I attach it. You're going to see this helps me out with where to place the dimensionals. Okay, so that's a great thing, Carol. And I think a lot of us are wondering why the dies are not staying. There is another bundle in the same situation called Queen Bee, another $1 million stamp set. The stamp set will continue to be available online. It's not in the new catalog, but we're told you will be able to purchase it online, however, no dies. So these $1 million sets or bundles, it appears that the dies are retiring. The stamp sets will continue to be available. So that's nothing official has been shared. It's just kind of like conjecture or some hypotheses, theories. All right, let me keep going. The next thing I'm going to do is bring in this beautiful ribbon. It is the natural finish ribbon. It's 7/8 inches wide, and we are going to stamp on the ribbon. This is where I'm stamping my sentiment. So I'm going to bring in my ribbon flat. I am stamping on cloth or ribbon, so I'm going to use my stays on so it doesn't bleed so much. I'm using the saddle brown there, and this is the sentiment that says always thinking of you. So I'm going to ink up, and I mentioned earlier that this is a stamp set that has a little bit extra rubber around the edges so that you don't get that ghosting around there. I am trying to be very careful and very watchful that I remove any of that extra ink around the edges because I don't want that showing up on my ribbon or on my paper. So I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to stamp down right onto the ribbon. Again, this is Stays On Saddle Brown, and I'm trying to press hard. There we go. There's my Always Thinking of You. Now I'm going to snip it. First of all, I'm going to cover up that Stays On. Get rid of the stamp. I need my ribbon scissors, and I'm cutting at a diagonal. And then I'm going to add a layer of Old Olive right behind it to add a little pop of color. And I'm going to go ahead and angle the edges. So it's 1 inch by about 3 3/4. This is going to go right below. And because I've got ribbon, I don't want to use liquid glue. I'm searching around, hopefully. I am using my Stampin' Seal. I'm going to run some seal right across the paper, and then I'm going to add my ribbon. This helps stabilize the ribbon, and again, it's going to give me a little pop of color right underneath. It's pressing down. Okay, this then gets added to the card base, and we've got some dimensionals. Now, as I'm thinking about this, I've had friends reaching out and asking about my buy one get one sale. I do it annually. The deal is that you buy some of my retired stamp sets, you will get the stamp set for free, but then you hop over to my online store and make a purchase for the equal amount. So you get one stamp set free, and you pay for the new set. It's a great way to snag some retired items and shop in the new catalog. So I'm doing it a little bit different this year. I am going to be offering it to my email subscribers first, and then I will go live a couple of weeks later. So if you know of anyone who is interested in some of the retired items, make sure that you point them my direction, get added to the email list, because that's the group that it's going to get dibs, first crack at all my retiring items. And then once I close that section up, I am going to be offering it on Facebook to the general public. All right, so I popped up my sentiment on my ribbon and my old olive. Now I'm going to add my little nest, and I'm popping this up with dimensionals, and I'm going to place the dimensionals right behind the nest. That way we don't see them, because this is vellum, and you can kind of see through there. And you know what? I'm actually going to add my birdie too, because I'm going to pop up behind the bird as well. So let me push this aside for the time being. I'm going to bring in one of my birds. I stamped several earlier, and I stamped in the Stays On Saddle Brown, and I colored using, well, I can walk you through the coloring. I used my early espresso, and I also used Calypso Coral. So early espresso goes right around the outer area of the brown feathers. And I did stamp on Stays On so the blender won't smear the ink. And then I brought in my Calypso Coral, gave him a little pinkish chest. And then again, yellow beak, blend it up, and I start with my lightest color. I'm searching around looking for my scrap. I don't see it now, so I'm going to make sure my tip is clean and blend this in. Look how beautifully that blends, even though I just kind of scribbled that ink on there. And I'm going to bring it up. Then I'm going to bring in the brown, that early espresso. And there we go. That's how I got my little birdie, my red-chested birdie. Now I'm ready to die cut. And let me make way here. And I'm using the mini again. Right through here. I'm going to flip that over, so I'm cutting onto the cutting pad. And there's my bird. There we go. Cranking this through. All right, here we go. So I just need one. I'm going to put my die back away, bring that over. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the bird to my nest, and this one's going to be popped up with a dimensional. Bring this over, move some of my tools over, make some space. Oh my lordy, what happened to my bird? I just pushed my bird out of the way. There you go. That is too funny. This is how my crafting takes so long, or why my crafting takes so long. All right, so I'm just going to bring him in right onto the little nest. Now I can put another dimensional behind where the bird is. Give that vellum circle a little bit more support. And we're going to bring this in slightly off to the right, just like so. And then I'm going to add one more little set of leaves. Let's see if I can use a glue dot right through here. All right, and this is going to go kind of right behind his body. There we go. So it's almost coming together. I'm going to add a little bow. Let's see if I can find my linen thread. So I'm going to create a nice long linen bow. let's see. Hello, Debbie. Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to join. You can always catch the replay here or on YouTube. And you can see we are working with Nested Friends, a beautiful bundle. And we're on card number 2. We built the nest with the die cuts. And then this is going to go right underneath here, right in here. There we go. All right, so there is card number 2. And notice how this is a little empty nest. Always thinking of you. And I think this is a perfect card for my daughter. So Selena has not lived with me for a few years now, and I'm always thinking of her and her empty bedroom. And I think, what a sweet card that would be. I hope she likes it. I love the color. The nest was so easy to build with the die cuts, the little twigs and those sweet little leaves, little birdie that we colored with our watercolor pencils, and our ribbon that we stamped with the Stays On Saddle Brown ink. So that ribbon is still available, I believe. It's a 7/8 inch natural ribbon. So that was card number 2. We've got one more card. Hope you can stick with me still. All right, so let me bring in my last card. Let me shift these things over. And I'll need that. I'm trying to stay tidy so I don't lose things, right? All right, so feel free to ask any questions. I'm going to kind of clear things away before I get started on the next card. So my final card is a fun fold. This is the vertical easel card, or the floating frame, some people call it. This sits really nicely on the desktop or the mantle. And I'm going to share with you how I created this. Really super fun card. This is a birthday card. And I'm using another specialty paper here. And this time I'm using the, let's see, the Sun Prints paper, which looks very similar to the Pretty Prints. This is in Night of Navy, and it's a little bit more of a nighttime birdie card. So let's talk about what I'm using here. All right, my card base is gray granite, and it is 8.5 by 5.5. We are going to score it. And we're going to score in 2 places. Let me bring it in my paper trimmer, and then we'll set the trimmer aside. I'm going to move that cutting blade out of the way so I don't cut. And the first score is going to be at 2 1/8. Second score is at 4 1/4. And we're done with the scoring. So I'm going to push this out of the way. All right, I also am using, as I said, the Sun Prints, and I'm using 2 panels that measure 2 inches by 5 1/4. I'm also using a panel of the brushstroke paper that I shared with you on card number 1. You get 3 colors in that pack. One is Night of Navy, the other is Blushing Bride, and the other is Soft Succulent that we used on card number 1. I have a cut that's 5 1/4 by 1 1/4. And I have, because it's not a white base card, I've got my inside layer at 4 by 5 1/4. Then I have a couple of die cuts here. I have a Night of Navy die cut. This is a stylish shape. It's the largest square. And I have the largest circle that I have cut from the textured, let's see if I can share with you, the textured 12 by 12 shimmer paper. We get 3 different colors. We get balmy blue, shaded spruce, and white. And this is still going to be available. You get, I believe, 2 sheets of each color. So you get 6 sheets. It's got a nice texture to it. Let's like a vertical, horizontal lines, got some nice shimmer going on, and I cut it with the largest circle. I have pre-die cut more of those lovely little leaves in Old Olive, and I'm just going to pop these out. So this is one way to avoid losing them. Just leave them on the card snip. All right. We don't need the rest of that. I also have two 2-inch squares of Night of Navy, and I have scored them right down the middle at 1 inch. So both of them are scored at 1 inch. Hopefully you can see that. You can definitely see it because they fold down easily. So we've got 2 rectangles now. And I have lots of white scrap. We're going to be stamping. One last thing. I die cut my little eggs. So I have 3 craft eggs, and this happens so easily. We have a die cut that cuts 3 eggs, 1 die cut, 3 eggs, so simple. We are going to be stamping these, so I'm going to set them aside. All right, we are going to build our card base first. So I'm going to push these pieces aside. And we're going to start with our card base. So we need our gray granite, we need our 2 pattern papers, and the 2 Night of Navy. So first things first, I'm going to score on the 2 1/8 inch score, and then I'm going to burnish. And I'm going to score on the 4 1/4 inch score. This is a fun fold that stands so easily, and the panel floats. Okay, so you can already see it coming together. There's my shape. Now I'm going to first add my 2 squares that I scored right down the middle, and I'm going to add them to the card base directly. So this is kind of important. They're going to be folded. I'm going to apply a little bit of adhesive on the back side. And this is going to go right onto the card base on that center score line, slightly to the right. I don't want it right on the score line. I want it just over. I'll show you. So you can see the score line, and I put it right to the left of the score line. Sorry, to the right. This one's going to go to the left. So again, I'm going to repeat. Just flip it to the left. So I just keep it closed. I'm going to put it right here to the left of the score line. You're going to see that little tiny gutter going down. All right. So this is what we've got, right? I'm going to take my 2 pattern papers. Doesn't matter which way they go. Anyway. There we go. I'm going to add adhesive, flat adhesive on the back. And I'm going to apply it to my card base. Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to lift that little wing. It's going to be opened. I'm going to push this right onto the score line, centering. And so I'm going to have like a 1/16 of an inch border on the right. And I have equal border on top and bottom. It's flat. Now I'm going to move that over. So I've got my two wings still. I'm going to open up that other wing. It's flat. And I'm going to add my second pattern paper on the left. All right, so remember your square is open, pushed flat. You're going to put this right up to the score line and press down. All right, there's our card base. And so easy then. And so we have two 1-inch wings there. This is where we are going to attach are square. And so the way I do that, now I'm going to lay these flat. I'm going to apply my adhesive. Hopefully this is making sense to you. And I want my stitching out. Now I'm going to put this on the diagonal with the points top and bottom. These are going to lay right on the score line, right like so. And this is another argument for my liquid glue. It's so forgiving. So if I didn't land in the right spot, I can just kind of push it up or push it down wherever it needs to be. And I've got my card base going on. Let's work with the inside next. So the inside panel, I've got a white 4 by 5 1/4, and then I have my brushstroke paper in Night and Navy, 5 1/4, 1 1/4. This is going to be attached to the right of that white panel, but I am going to use dimensionals because we do want it lifted. This is going to help perk that or prop that little panel up so that it can stand on the desktop. By the way, this is going to be a birthday card. This Nested Friends has the perfect greetings, the ones we need. It has the birthday wishes, the thank you, and the thinking of you. What could be better, right? This little bundle is so sweet. And I'm trying to remember who's, let's see. I thought it was $1 million set. Maybe not. I thought it was. If it's not, that that just puts a hole in my whole theory about what's carrying over and why the dies are not available. Okay, so now I'm going to pop this up on the right side of my basic white. I'm going to leave right up to the edge. There we go. And so you can see it's elevated there. That's going to help pop this up. I'm going to add this to the inside. Right in through here. And there we go. All right, so there is our card base. We need to do a little bit of stamping and die cutting to decorate. So I'm going to bring in my basic white scraps. And this time I am using that beautiful Nest. It's a big stamp. This is on block E. And I'm stamping in Early Espresso. And what I like to do when I have these big stamps is flip the stamp over and then just ink up this way instead of struggling to get the stamp right onto the ink pad. And I'm going to be generous with that ink. This is going to go right onto the basic white. Give it some nice pressure. There we go. And let me also get my little spotted or speckled stamp. And I'm looking around for my scrap paper. I'm going to bring in my 3 eggs and I'm going to add some speckles. I just gang them up here, ink up. So I don't want them too dark, so I'm going to stamp off and then stamp. And now I have my speckled eggs. So I've got that taken care of. Then I'm going to come in. I need a branch that I'm going to be die cutting, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp. I've got Early Espresso here. I might as well stamp in Early Espresso, and it's going to go right onto my basic white. I'm going to be die cutting this. I also need my bird. And I'm looking around for my Memento black because I am going to be using my watercolor pencils to color the little bird. So ink him up. There we go. And see, I got a little bit of residual, but no worries because this is going to be die cut. But that's exactly what I've been trying to explain. This little stamp set has a little bit too much rubber around the image. And I know that some crafters like to trim that off. I usually just go with it and try to work around it. So we'll see. Okay, so one more thing, I need a sentiment. I'm using the birthday wishes. I'm going to stamp right on basic white. And it's going to be a very small sentiment. So there we go, birthday wishes. All right, I think we're ready to die cut. Or you can color first. So you can do either one. You can die cut and then color, or color and die cut. Let's go ahead and color. I've got a bigger piece of paper this way. So I'm going to bring in my pencils. I'm using Night and Navy, which is assortment 2. I'm going to use my Old Olive, assortment 1. My Daffodil Delight, assortment 1. And my Early Espresso, assortment 1. I think that's it. Okay, so let's start off with my Early Espresso. I'm just going to apply color all the way around, right through the branches. You can see how easy it goes on, and it's nice and light. You don't have to do too much detailed coloring. I'm just putting overall color onto the nest because this is just a stamped nest. We're not going to be building. We're going to add some of those cute little leaves, but that's the extent of it. We're not going to add the twig layer. And that's what I like about this set. It gives you the option. You can stamp it or you can build it with the die cuts. And again, I think it's just perfect for springtime. All the birdies that are coming around with their building their nest, and it's so sweet to watch them fly in with a little bit of breakfast or snacks for the babies. Okay, so there is my nest. I'm going to bring a little bit into the branches here. And I have one long branch in there. And then I'm going to color also the long branch, again with Early Espresso. I'm just putting down a lot of color. I'm not even going to blend this. This is Early Espresso. I am going to add a little bit of color to the leaves. I'll show you how I like to add a little bit more vibrant color. I'm going to take my Old Olive, and this time I'm going to take the color directly off the tip. Instead of coloring the leaves, you get a nice darker color this way. And it's kind of a more solid, vibrant color. And that's just for the leaves on this little nest. This is a nighttime scene, so I'm making a little bit darker. So I must say, one of the other outgoing colors, another favorite, is Pear Pizzazz. I love that soft green. It would be perfect for cutting your little leaves to add to your branches as well. But it is a color that's on its way out. I think the cardstock is still available if you need to have some on hand for certain projects. Now, with all the colors going out, I have to add that there are lots of beautiful colors coming in. So while I'm sad to see many colors going out, Mango Melody, Pear Pizzazz, Bermuda Bay, Soft Suede, it's also fun to see the colors that are coming in. All right, so let's do our branch too. Right in through here. You can see how easy this goes. It's quick and easy. And it was always my go-to coloring before the blends. Still love it. Okay, so I'm gonna clean off that blender. You can see I have lots of green on there. I wanna make it, you just wipe it clean until it's pretty much clear. Now I'm gonna do my bird. Yellow chest. Night and Navy from assortment 2. And then I'm going to do the same technique to color the beak. I'm going to bring in my blender, pick up the color, and just add a nice dark beak. Then I'm going to go ahead and blend this in. Put a little on his head and blend in the blue. And then I also brought in a little bit of gray just to transition into the yellow. There we go. A little bit of shadowy area. All right, we are ready to die cut. So once again, I'm bringing the mini in. And the sandwich is the same. So I'm using platform 3, cutting pad, my great big nest. Yes, Susan, I love that linen thread. It's 7/8 inches wide, and it is so cool to stamp on it and create your own patterned ribbon. So, and I do like to stamp on it with stays on so that it won't bleed so much. So, there we go. So there's my nest, easy. I'm going to bring in my branch. And let's see if I can do my bird at the same time. Right here. Looks pretty good. Let's go ahead. I'm going to hold my breath and crank that through. So Susan's loving the set. I totally agree, Susan. I think this is a very pretty set with great greetings that we need. And of course, you need the dies. All right, so let's build up our focal point. We're going to bring in our, let's see, our specialty shimmer paper here. And I'm going to bring in my nest. And I'm going to add my eggs. So bring in some adhesive direct to the nest. And just bring them in. And same kind of theory. I'm going to put the center one last, so it's kind of like, whoops. An egg just went flying. There we go. And right through here, there. Then we are going to put our branch right onto our circle. And so I'm going to do that with liquid glue. And it's going to be hanging off both ends, kind of low. And then let's see, then comes our nest on dimensionals. So let's see, I find it easier to put them on the circle so that I know that they won't be falling off of the circle. And it's even a good safety measure to put some of the dimensionals right onto the branch, keeping it secure. And then one more. All right, we'll add our nest. Flip that over, and it's actually coming down pretty low on the circle. We're going to add little leaves. I've got a dimensional sticking out right there. I'll add my bird. A dimensional right on the head. And we're going to put, let's see, right around there. Now let's add some of those sweet little leaves. And I'm just doing a little tiny dot of glue. All right, then I'm going to bring my tweezers and let's see, I have to remember where I put my dotted glue. Let's see, this one's going to go this way. Some are peeking behind, some are right on the branch. And I know it's kind of hard to see where my dots are. My dots of glue are. There we go. And I think I have one right there. Right around here. And I still have a couple more I could use. All right, so then this will go right onto our Knight of Navy square. And again, I am using dimensionals. So I'm going to add lots of support. Right through here. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Carol. I think that the stamp set is very, very friendly to work with. The images are just beautiful, and of course the sentiments are perfect. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And I'm just going to have a little triangle peeking out at all sides, right in through here. And then lastly, well, not quite lastly, let's add our little bow. So we have a linen thread bow. Right in here. I cut that down. Put this on with a little glue dot there we go. I can find my glue dots. This goes like right at the tail. And whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to bring in a trimmer. I need to trim down my sentiment. And let's see, here we go. My favorite trimmer. And it's going to be, I think it's about 3/4 of an inch there. And I'm just using my little diagonal cut. And it's going to go right over top of that bow. So I'm going to put a mini dimensional if I can grab one. Whoops. Mini dimensional in the very top corner. It's going to come right in there. So it looks like I can put a little bit of liquid glue down in here to make that stick right in here. And there we go. There is our third card with nested friends. We have a birthday card, birthday wishes. It's going to stand right on the desktop or mantle. And let's see if I can bring in the other two cards. There's my birthday card, my thinking of you card, and my best friends. There we go. There are my three nested friends. Let's see if I can put them right straight across. They all fit. Yeah. There we go. What do you think? Oh, Susan's asking about my next in-person class. Great question, Susan. I do have a simple cards this Wednesday afternoon. Birthday, thank you, and thinking of you. It is a hodgepodge of stamp sets, and they are simple cards Wednesday afternoon. And then thereafter, I have a club on, let's see, May 16th. And I should have another card class. I can't think of the date off the top of my head. And then I am going to be prepping for two things: my buy one get one annual sale and my wonderful trip, dream vacation to Norway that's coming up. So things are getting a little bit tight with the schedule, but I still am keeping the in-person club and classes going as well as the online classes. So having said that, thank you, Susan. If you are interested in this card kit, there are some incentives for ordering. You will get the free kit, tutorials, and gift with an order. So let's go over. If with a $35 order, you're going to get the class kit. You are going to get two tutorials. You're going to get the vertical Z fold. And I'm looking around for my cards. I shared with them earlier, and I can't find them. You're also going to get the simple specialty samples, the Starburst tutorial. With the $50 order, I'm going to add in that linen thread that you need to complete your cards. With a $75 order, you're going to get a free stamp set. Yay! You can choose. I have a limited quantity of both of these, the Scenic Garden and the Beautifully Happy. So it's first come, first serve. Once this supply is depleted, then it will be a mystery set. And you just need to shop with the host code by Sunday, the 23rd. And I also mentioned I had other nested friend cards. So I have one to share. This was our club card from last night. There's the thank you with the little birdie and the little blue speckled eggs, a thank you card. And I have another fun fold with the petal pink, the best friends card. This is the easel step card. Very sweet the way it sits on the mantle. So lots of things you can do. And I can't remember the name of this designer series paper. It is also retiring. So lots of things you can do with this nested friends. I do like the stamp set. I encourage you to get the dies if you like the cards. Thank you, Barbara. She loves the cards. I so appreciate you joining me. If you have a friend that you think might be interested in these cards, be sure to share this video with them. If you came in late or if you have to leave early, the video will be available over on YouTube. And yeah. All right. So anyway, so Susan says she missed the deadline. I know, lots of things that we have to consider these days. Too many things going on in our brains. But I try to send out emails. That's another reason to make sure that you are on the email list. For the buy one, get one sale this year, my email subscribers will get first crack at all of my retired items. And then it will go live on Facebook. And I'm looking at, let's see, the first week of May, I believe, for the email buy one, get one. And then the live will probably be when I return from my incentive trip. So make sure you're on the email list if you have any friends that might be interested in any of the retired items. It's a great deal. You buy my retired item, you're going to get some free current merchandise, so you can get 2 for 1 and of your favorites. So thank you so much for joining me. If you have any more questions, please post them. I always look at the comments right after. I so appreciate you joining me. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.